So I call to order this regular council meeting of the Village of Ashcroft for Monday, January the 13th, 2020. And just a note that this is the last meeting at which a full printed agenda will be available for members of the public. Going forward, we will have cover sheets available, but the full agenda will, as always, be available to anyone on the village website prior to a council meeting for consultation. All right, move to adopt the agenda as presented or as amended. Do I have a motion on that? Councillor Toohey, thank you. Second, Councillor Anderson. Any additions or amendments?
Your Worship, you have data from the Mayor and Council with a change of date for the youth, rural voice. They've changed your date from January 11th to January 17th.
All right, so that's to be included in tonight's agenda. All right, so move to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Anderson, Councillor Davenport, thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And motion to adopt the regular meeting of council held minutes of the regular meeting of council held Monday, December 9th, 2019. Councillor Toohey moved. Councillor Anstett seconded. Are there any errors or omissions? No. Seeing and hearing none, I declare the minutes adopted as presented. We have no delegations tonight, so we move to correspondence. Item 5.1. An invitation to the 17th Annual BC Natural Resources Forum. What is council's pleasure? Councillor Toohey.
I move to receive and file.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anstett, thank you. Any discussion on this? No? Seeing and hearing none on the question then, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5.2. The Ashcroft Hub Society is asking for a council member at their board table on page 7. And I would move to appoint a member of council to attend Ashcroft Hub board meetings and report back to council. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Anderson. Any discussion on this? Are there any members of council who are particularly interested in attending the Hub board meetings on a regular basis to report back? I've got Councillor Toohey and Councillor Anderson. All right. Then perhaps you could take it in turns. One of you could be the main and one could be the alternate. And just contact them. All right. So Councillor Toohey, you'd like to be the appointee to the board, and Councillor Anderson as the alternate. Is there any discussion? No. All right. On the question, then all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 5.3, Southern Interior Local Government Association call for nominations. I move to receive and file. Councillor Anstett, second. Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Toohey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering if anyone is interested in running for any of these positions that are on our council.
I will not be running again. I did do a year. It was very gratifying and it was very interesting and informative, but it is quite time consuming and I simply don't have the time. But if anyone else wants to run, you can either put in a nomination beforehand or you can run from the floor at the Silver Convention in Vernon.
I'm not interested.
So, any further discussion? No? On the question then, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5.4. Southern Interior Local Government Association call for resolutions. I would like to move that the Village of Ashcroft make a resolution to SILGA calling on the provincial government to provide signage on Class A highways in the province where there is limited or no cell phone coverage. Councillor Davenport, thank you. This is something I brought up at UBCM, and as there's been no government movement on this, and Minister Trevena has indicated that she feels that the status quo is good, I would like to start the resolution process. If this is passed at SILGA, then it is automatically forwarded to UBCM for consideration. Any discussion on this? No? Seeing and hearing none on the question, then all those in favor, opposed, carried. Councillor Toohey.
Thank you, Mayor. If we have something, because I remember us thinking of different things that we thought should be good resolutions. So if we think of them later, we still have until, what, February 28th?
That's right.
So we would bring those up at a meeting, or could we just discuss them with Anne, or what would we do with?
They would have to be brought up at the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And Silga is cracking down quite hard on late resolutions because some municipalities were abusing that and not using late resolutions for emergent issues that came up after the deadline. They were using them for things that could have been done by the deadline, so.
Okay. Thank you. I just have one more question. On the steelhead fishing, has that already gone to the government? Have we put that in the right hands already, or do you have them declared as a
Species at risk?
species at risk? Or should that go through resolution?
No, the federal government has already declined to name it as a species at risk. CSIC special report last January, I believe, strongly urged the government to declare them a species at risk, and the federal government came out last summer and said that no, they would not be taking that step.
Okay, so there's nothing we can do to...
No, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks.
Although I know that MLA Taggart and MP Vist are both working on that issue, as is Director Rice in Spencer's Bridge.
Just for council's information, matters that are federal matters, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or FCM, is the advocacy body that works on those matters.
Okay. Item 5.5, Bridging to Literacy Facility Use Request. What is council's pleasure on this? Councilor Anderson.
I'd like to make a motion that we do proclaim the week of January 26th as Family Literacy Week, and we also donate the use of the community skating arena for the free families.
Would you consider splitting that into two motions, just so that, okay? So the first motion would be about declaring Family Literacy Week? Okay, thank you. Councilor Anstett, second. Any discussion on this? On the question, then all those in favor, opposed, carried. And Councilor Anderson, you have a second motion?
Yes, the second motion being that we donate the use of the community skating arena for a free family skate on the afternoon of Friday, January 31st, and put this information in our newsletter.
Great, thank you. Seconder, Councilor Anstett, thank you. Any discussion on this? No? On the question, then, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 5.6, we have a letter from Gloria Mertens regarding the possible waiving of fees for some research that their staff did on at her request. Councilor Anderson.
I'd like to put forward a motion to unfortunately deny the request to waive the fees for the reason that our staff are really stretched. And extra time like that, if there is a cost to the taxpayer, the village of Ashcroft. And, this is something that we have to keep in mind.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councilor Anstett, is there any discussion on this? Just as clarification for members of the public, of course, we do have the public question session for each on each agenda for council meetings, and any current information that residents are seeking there's no charge if you're coming in to ask a question about a current matter. Any further discussion? No? On the motion then, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5.7, Esther Lang is requesting use of the community hall in December 2020. So I would move to grant use of the Ashcroft Community Hall to the Christmas Hamper Committee from 15th to 19th of December 2022. Second, Councillor Davenport, thank you. Any discussion? I knew it would come this month, I just wondered if it would be at the first or the second meeting of January. There were 182 hampers given out last December. They were distributed on the 21st, and that is sadly a new record for the Christmas hamper. Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering, there's nothing here requesting it at no cost. Does that come later in her letter, or can we do that now?
I believe there is no fee for community groups to use it.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I don't know
Okay.
offhand. I don't have the
Yeah,
fees
I
and charges
don't
by
either.
law.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to make an amendment, propose an amendment, move that we donate use of the community hall at no charge for those 4 days. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson? Okay. On the amendment then, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. And back to the main motion, the original motion, which is to grant use of the community hall. Any further discussion on that? No? All right, on the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Garrett Smart, item 5.8 from the Hub Online Network, council interview request. There is a letter on page 15 of the agenda, and Mr. Smart has asked for permission to speak to council on this. So, Mr. Smart, if you'd like to take the podium, the floor is yours.
So, I just wanted, if I have a minute, to just explain what my new job position is. So I'm now a civic journalist, which means that my new mandate is to cover courthouses, city councils, band councils, school boards, that sort of thing, specifically. So what we're hoping to do is, with both you guys and Cache Creek Council and hopefully the local Indian bands, is to have a monthly, so once a month, rotating person. So what this would mean is, this would be something that you would do twice a year for probably half an hour. You would come to our studio and just provide a little bit of extra analysis as to what's going on. You can talk about the good things that are happening in Ashcroft. You would answer some questions that we would have from possibly the public, more or less myself. And it would just be an extra opportunity to get the word out as to what's happening in Ashcroft and put some names to faces. Because not a lot of people come to the meetings, but it'd be a good chance to get out there and talk about what's going on. If you guys are interested, that's what we are asking you guys to do.
Thank you. All right, I would like to make a motion that a different member of council attend the Hub Online Network studio for a monthly interview. Councillor Toohey, thank you. And here I should say that if anyone feels uncomfortable going before a camera, I know some people do, then you are by no means obligated to do this. But if you feel able to go and sit and answer some questions, it's great, I think, to see the different faces. So anyone who doesn't want to can decide, and we don't have to give an answer immediately, but you can draw names out of a hat and see who goes first. Does anyone think that they would not like to do this or take part?
Don't make me cry. I'm not uncomfortable to make it, to be honest with you.
Sorry. That's fine. If you can think about it, and if you decide you'd like to do it, then that's great. Maybe once you've had an opportunity to see one or two of them and see what the format is, then you might decide that that's something you'd like to do. Okay. Any further discussion? No? On the motion then, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
All right, we have, in addition to the, I guess we can put this under correspondence, or for action correspondence, is the letter you received here regarding the presentation from Desert Hills Community School students and TRU, which was rescheduled from last Saturday at 6 p.m. to this Friday at 6 p.m. at the Hub, to talk about a Green Communities initiative that they've been working on. So I'd like to move that as many members of council as possible attend this meeting on Friday at 6 p.m. Councillor Toohey, thank you. Any discussion on this? As they are specifically addressing councils of our two communities, I think it would be nice if as many people from council were there as possible. Any further discussion? On the motion, then all those in favor, Opposed? Carried. We move on to information, Ashcroft Communities in Bloom, 2019 final report and proposed 2020 budget, pages 16 to 19. And I'd like to move that we send a letter of thanks to the Ashcroft Communities in Bloom Committee for all of the work they do to make our community a beautiful and vibrant one. Councillor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion on this? No? Yeah, Councillor Chu.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering, do we have to approve this budget, or is that just up to committees?
It's for information.
Yeah, it's just for information. Thank you.
And just for information, I guess it was 3 years ago now, their annual, the amount they got from the village annually was $5,000, and council of the day voted that it increased by $100 for each of the next 5 years, so. Any further discussion? On the question then, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we have the information correspondence listing to January 10th, 2020. What is council's pleasure on this? Councilor Judy.
Thank you. I move to receive and file, please.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Davenport. Any discussion? Nope. On the question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Move on to unfinished business. We have the motions list, pages 21 and 22. What is council's pleasure on this item? Councilor Davenport.
Move that we receive and file.
Receive and file, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Anderson. I would just like to say that regarding the item, council directs staff to contact Ashcroft representative at the Health Roundtable and request a standing committee. We are having a meeting at the Health Roundtable tomorrow, and I will bring this up at that time. And thank you to staff for this, again, handy report showing exactly what's going on. Any further discussion on the actionable motion and task list tracker? Nope. On the question, then all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have no new business. We have no bylaws to discuss. Item 9.1, we have nothing, and 9.2, CFO Bala, and that should be finance review for 2019. Okay, can you still see? Can you still see? That's a shame. Yeah, there's lots of TV.
I don't know, turn the audience in.
No, you're okay.
Just try and make it bigger like I usually do. Start this on here. Basically, it's reached that we're at the end of the year. Most of the numbers are in, but I still have to do some accrual entries, particularly for payroll, vacation, etc. So that will change the figures. But the overall message I wanted to convey, so this is our general operating fund. And if we look down here, and I'll make it bigger, we are 341 in the positive. And this will decrease with the accruals having gone through, but I'm fairly confident we'll end up within budget this year as well. And we're in relatively good shape. This shows basically where we are, where the budget was, and where we're sitting. And this is a combination of income and expenses, the revenue and expenses. If I just look at the expenses, it isn't as crowded, and it's for the full year. And again, we're better than budget. And I encourage you to go in and have a look at this statements yourself, and if there are any areas of concern, let me know. Fiscal services is showing negative, and some of it is interest revenue which is deferred, and some of it is amortization. These are, and this one here, for example, 23,000 is for our capitalization of our IT costs. So it's always, I try and sort it from bad to good. Bad news first and then good news. And overall, we're doing great. So if I get out of it and look at the overall pattern, there's some GST eligible for purchases. It was showing negative. That's just a timing thing. I have to claim the GST. So we've done well this year again and stayed within budget despite everything we've been doing, right? So looks good. There'll be updates as I get all those entries completed and get prepared for the auditors, and I'll update again as well. So that was the general operating fund. I'll switch to sewer operating fund. I'll put both of these things together, revenue and expenses, and we are just positive 35,000, so just under the budget. Okay, so right on there. So and I'm able to, with BI, pull these out and pull out the project costs because we've got hundreds of thousands going through projects, which would have made the, when we look at projects overall, and they get reported on separately, the capital projects. So pulling all that out and just looking at operations, we've done that. Water operating fund, of course, I had to pull out the water project, which was 8 odd million, I think. 4 something went through this year, and we've again ended up on the positive side in the budget. So everything's looking good. I still have to, like I said, make some year-end adjusting entries and get everything cleaned up, and we're in good position. So I'll switch back to, well, any questions about the income statement? When you have a chance to look at it, and if you want, any further, I'm always available in the office if you want the detail of anything which occurs to you. This was a cash balance, how it varied, bonds and cash, and how we ended. The start is, of course, when you open the books, we carry over. So that's the total carried over, then up and down. And a lot of these expenses, these huge ones are project costs, $1 million coming out. $1 million grant coming in. So it has made accounting interesting, and my audit is going to be interesting this year because balancing all those projects is going to take a. The projects, I just filed, I should make this bigger, that's way too small.
It's fine for me.
Sorry to the audience, but
Zoom that camera.
asset management, I just have filed to get the money for our asset management grant. Waiting for FCM to.
No, I can't see it anyway.
I'm kind of really expecting to finish it and send it. I didn't want to extend it past this year and wanted to get, because we met FCM requirements before from the work we've done. It's proceeded forward more than that, but so I wanted to just file it in. And this was money in lieu of my work, so they basically, so the net I'm anticipating is about 25,000 for the time spent, which was nice. Usually grants won't give us anything from our time, or the rest of the staff is time. So this was nice that like small communities don't run around and hire people, we try and get as much done as possible ourselves because it's too expensive to get people in. Economic development, ongoing, we'll have to file performance before March 31st, and we get like usual 55,000. We go back and forth a little bit. Water treatment plant, as you know, is finished. We have had, I'm not sure whether that is, well, we'd applied to extend the grant and use the monies which were there. Before I say something which is non-public information, but the province has been very happy to work with us because we did well in managing the biggest part of the project. Go back to the report. Long-term debt, that's the amount of the debt, which is basically the fire loan, 380,000. Oops, why is it showing? My screen has switched, but that one hasn't switched. I froze it. Let's try again. Connect. I guess the TV needs rebooting as well.
I didn't touch anything.
Yeah, not connected.
It's too cold. There we go. So basically, our total long-term debt at the point was 380,000 for the fire truck. These were the payments to it. We did borrow $1 million for the water treatment plant. Since the project is being extended, we keep it on hand for the time being. But the intention is to pay off our debts. And it's still looking good, but there are two major additional scope increases. The intake at the river, a whole chamber there, and that's a fairly significant project, as well as a backup generator. We were able to squeeze it. So let's see where that can end before I start paying off things. Then I have to run and borrow again. I don't want to do that, so we continue that. So this excludes that 1 million short-term loan. But that's. We did start tracking environmental sustainability. These are the figures of the last 4 years. 2019 is yet to come through. The things I pulled this out of is our carbon report, carbon tax reporting. And they're trying to change the system yet again. So once I can pull figures from them, I'll put it for you to see as well. So we get a trend line. Our energy consumption will increase for the treatment of the water at the new facilities. It is being, of course, offset by the solar, a lot of it, which is very positive as far as cost for carbon goes for us. But still, I mean, it doesn't offset all the energy consumption. So, and then there's a fairly detailed thing for restricted and restricted funds. Again, we're in a reasonably good position. I don't want to get into the details, but it's spread across a fair number of funds. And in the asset management presentation, which I'll do in the future, I'll show you some dashboards about how we're doing as far as sustainability goes of operations. We're working hard to develop those metrics for you, or ratios. So you'll see a lot of that. That would be a longer session. I'm doing all the reporting to FCM and everything else, but our system is fairly well developed already, and now we're starting to enhance it with analytics. So we get to see some of that stuff as well. That's a presentation in a nutshell. I never take much time, but the best way, if you're looking at these, and I'll just go into expenses and I'll shift into general operating fund, which is our biggest. Look at the areas highlighted in red, and I'll give you, if you click, for example, on fiscal services, if you have questions, most of them are there. I started putting a comment, really, really small there, but it says capitalizing ID cost. It'll give you some description of what's going on, but if there are further questions, please. And the whole idea of the dashboard is to let you focus on things which are, so if the bigger it is, the more money that is involved, and the more red it is, the more in trouble we are. So, okay, thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments on CFO Bella's finance report? Mr. Anderson?
As always, CFO Bella does an excellent job. Thank you. I really appreciate the efforts you're putting in.
Thank you. Now, just for a point of clarification, when you talked about the $1 million borrowed for the water treatment, do you mean the excess funding that will allow us to go ahead with the chamber?
So just to manage cash flows, because our grants take a while to get back, they've asked for 10 different reports before they send some of the grants. So in the interim, we borrow, right, to cover our cash flow and never be at a point where we are right at the margin. It's at a really low rate with the MFA DC. But the idea is, initially we thought we need to borrow permanently 4 million. Hopefully by the end of the next 2 projects and subsets, we can pay everything off, and that's the goal. I mean, but I'm keeping that $1 million there just to cover our expenses and cash flows, because they won't have that. You know, as you notice in the cash flow, $1.5 million was going up out 1 month, $1 million was coming in the next, so we just stabilize that.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions, comments? No? All right, thank you very much, CFO Bala. We move on to council reports. You'll see my report, pages 23 to 25. The meeting that did not occur until after I'd done this was a meeting of Historic Hat Creek last Wednesday, at which board members were presented with a new proposal from the Heritage Branch. And in the past, they had offered 1 year and then a 1-year extension, subject to board and staff members taking some governance and First Nations cultural training. Then we had a change in the board chair at the AGM, and there was a special meeting called for tomorrow, which has now been called off because the road conditions are so bad, but we've all been asked to vote by email on accepting the new proposal from the Heritage Branch, which is 2 years, and then the possibility of a 2-year extension. So we'll find out tomorrow how that went, but I think everyone is in agreement that that is a substantial improvement on what they were offering before. And does anyone have any questions about anything in the report? Councillor Chu?
I just wanted to comment and say that there were some good changes, I think, coming for Hat Creek, and I was glad to read the things that will be happening.
I think that going forward, there will be a much more fruitful and partnership with the Heritage Branch.
Yeah.
So I think that there will be some really good things coming on the horizon for Historic Hat Creek. And in the conversation I had with Thompson Okanagan Tourism, they stressed too that even though Historic Hat Creek is not technically within their region, they do recognize the importance of it to the region as something that attracts people here and then encourages them to stay. All right, and then we have the current from the TNRD. There is a TNRD meeting coming up this Thursday in Kamloops, and not mentioned on here, but in my report is the fact that 2 local groups were successful in getting funding, so that was very nice. And no resolutions to be released from closed meeting while it's to be determined, and so we move into question period. And questions from the press and or the public. Oh, does any other council member have a report? I would encourage you to do it in writing, and we all have the forms, and if you've lost them or can't find them or whatever, then CFO Dick will be able to supply them to you. So if they're in writing, then it gives other people a chance to review them in advance of the meeting and then comment, and they're part of the permit for everyone as well. Councilor Anston.
Just want a heads up that I'll be making a notice of motion at the next council meeting in regards to our fire bylaws in the community, possibly restructuring and looking at changing our fire bylaw in the community.
In what respect?
In respect to burning of yard waste and
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we move into question period. Mr. Smart, did I see you making a move to the...
Oh, no, I got a phone call, I'm sorry.
Oh. All right. Ken?
Thank you. For me being as one of the younger old people in town, and our demographic is going that way, and being a relative neophyte on this thing, and not having personal, although Debbie's good at it, not having personal access to a printer and or the time to sit down with my telephone and try and figure out how to read the upcoming council agenda, is there provision for me to contact administration and ask for the package that we used to get so that I can sit down in my spare time and roll through and make my questions versus not having the ability to come to the meeting prepared?
I don't have an answer for that, so does Is there an answer, or would you like me to check and I can get back to you?
We're doing a little bit of the academic here simply because without the bylaw in front of us, I don't know exactly where we're at. But yes, we absolutely do print documents for
Okay,
people when they come in tasks.
okay. Does that
Yep.
answer your question?
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions from the public?
So just in further to that, so a lot of, well, I guess there's not a lot of people that attend, but for those who do attend and don't prepare in advance, would it not be easy just to print off the package as people come in? Just say, oh, we've got 5 people from the public, let's print it off for them right now, because it's all digitalized and you don't have to print it off in advance for people. But for people, just to respect the people that do come to council meetings and don't have their phone or whatever to follow along, it would make it a lot easier if they could see a printed copy. Most times, the public is not always attending regularly to know this in advance.
There will be cover sheets available, which will cover the items that are going to be discussed. I'd have to consult with staff and see if it's possible to do that. My concern would be that 10 people show up at 4:29, and then we have this is a what-page agenda, 26-page agenda. They have in the past been considerably longer than that, and that is a considerable amount of time for staff. And one of the ambitions of this is to try to cut down on the amount of paper that we waste. So I think that if people are going to, I realize this might be difficult for some people, but I think that in time people will understand that the system has changed. As CEO Yansu said to Cam, it's possible to consider this on a case-by-case basis, but the agendas generally go up on the website on a Thursday or Friday?
Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon, so I think it's just a matter of educating the public that this is the way things are going to be going forward. Any further questions?
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So 3.1 minutes of the regular meeting, December 9th. 5.2, the slough was not accessible to the public. There was some discussion about that letter that had come from Cleo Landucci, and that public safety is the main concern, and it is a federal offense to cross the CN rail line, and to talk about respecting the transition of the public to the property use. And I just want to know, just to reiterate to council, can you just confirm that the status of the slough road, is it public or private?
Evans Road, it
Yes.
is public road as far as the sign indicating that it is now private property, no trespassing. That's just beyond, I guess, to the north of the entrance to the office, the current office building for the Ashcroft terminal. After that sign, it is private.
So in order to allow people to get access to the slough, could it be considered, or would council consider perhaps creating, it would require a little bit of creativity, a path beneath the railway track so that the public can access the slough area?
That is not something council has considered at this time.
I'm just asking for you to consider during your trails master plan session.
That would be something that a Trails Master Plan session would, I hope, or study would, I hope, illuminate the possibility of a variety of trails all over the village. So,
Just so that the public would still have access in a safe way, wouldn't have to cross the CN tracks. They could get it underneath the tracks and then access the slough. So that's what I was asking. Go ahead, Ken.
Further to that point, though, is that property not, does that not belong to the terminal? Therefore, it's private property, therefore it shouldn't be accessed for fear of liability anyway. So why would there be discussion about the public accessing somebody's private property any more than I'd want them behind my shop?
exactly, we would have to identify where, we'd have to look at the property boundaries for the Ashcroft terminal. And of course, if it's on private property, then there's nothing the village of Ashcroft can do.
Anything below the high level mark is private, is public property. People can fish on the river and have access to anything.
It's creating the access through private property that's the issue.
Water is the property of the province, and all people, citizens have access to that.
Ken?
Further to that point, the question would be, is it not correct that it's only publicly accessed when it's dry, when it's wet? So at any point where there's vegetation or land sticking through that water, it becomes private property, not accessible. It's only public access when it's wet. That's the way I understand it.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Minutes of the regular meeting, 9.4 CFO presentation. There was a comment about access through the website, and I'd like to know when that access would be and how that the public could access the documentation.
Your worship, like I mentioned last time, this is for internal presentation purposes. The audited financial statements are available once they're done. And, if there are any questions. So this access is for council to look at financial statements in graphical format. It's not for the public.
Okay, there was something in the minutes that it was going to be accessible to the public, so on the website. Just wanted to have that information.
Item 9.4.
Yes.
So the asset management, they might be, so we are looking at, in the future, this is nothing, giving some indicators out to the public, but right now it's not set up for public access. That would entail licensing costs, and as I said, and design and all that.
Any further questions? We've got less than 5 minutes.
Correspondence 5, I sent a letter to council, mayor and council, and I noticed that it's not on the correspondence list. It's not was not discussed about, and that was the response to Cleo Landucci regarding the lambasting of the school for having students be vocal about the support of the pathway. And I'm just wondering why council did not receive that letter dated December 19th.
Is that substantially or identical to the letter that appeared in the Ashcroft Council
Yes.
Journal?
Yes.
All right. CEO answer.
Your worship, we can speak to that. I made that call, the letter was addressed to the editor, and it was CC'd to council. Every councillor was on that CC for the email, and there was no point in including it in the distribution.
Thank you.
So are you saying that all correspondence is not put onto public record?
CEO answer.
Absolutely. We exercise a lot of discretion around that. We have to exercise discretion around correspondence that can put us in a libelous position. We exercise discretion on correspondence that isn't directed to the council, as this letter was not directed to the council, it was directed to the editor of the letter of the newspaper. There is some discretion exercised.
Okay, thank you.
6.1 motions list, the river upgrades for I'm just wondering, is with regards to that motion, has the request for proposals gone out?
I'm sorry.
The chamber, your worship,
Oh,
if I may, the chamber upgrades, no, we are at the initial stages of moving forward with the promise. And then we'll be.
So you've got the extension for the money for the grant for 2 years, and then they're having a request.
I was hesitating to speak around that because I'm not sure whether that is a formal notification to release to the public, but in essence, a conversation.
Okay. And we have time for one more question, if there is one. Any more questions?
The planning session is coming up soon. How does the public have input into that planning session?
The planning session for,
Council.
we don't have.
Don't you have a planning session in January sometime?
Oh,
Budget discussions or something like that? So just to inform the public how they can have input before the public presentation?
well, generally we have 2 public presentations. We used to, back in the distant past, or not actually that distant, have just one. Now we have 2, which the first one is done before the budget is finalized, so members of the public can have input at that stage, or at least find out what the budget looks like proposed going forward. But as has been stressed, the public is free at any time to make requests of council about things that they would like to see considered in the next budget, and we do have 2 or 3 things at least that members of the public have brought forward which we will be discussing during the budget discussion. Okay. All right. No further questions from the public. I move that we take this into a closed meeting under Community Charter Section 90.1. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.